Hello. How's everyone doing? That's great. So as he said, my name is Sean Chandler, and I'm very glad to be here for a number of reasons. The first off is, like he said, I grew up at the church where the Impact program started, and for me, it changed my life. It was the turning point in my life from when I didn't get it to when the light bulb went off, or light bulb went on, and everything changed when I participated in that program. And my home life when I was in middle school and high school, crazy. A lot of that going back to the fact that I had an alcoholic dad. And the place that I found security, the place that I found family, and the place that I found truth was at church. And through my youth leaders and through the people that I met around me in that context. And so for the last 15 years, I've worked with teenagers trying to be that person for teenagers like you guys. And so for that reason, I'm very excited to be here to get to bring the word. Also, I'm very excited to be here for the simple fact of the matter that I'm not homesick. For the last 2 weeks, my household has just been cycling through sick people. So going back a couple of weeks, my son started to get a little bit sick, but we had invited some friends over. So our friends came over. My son is normally the type of kid that wants to show everybody every single thing that he has. Like, do you know what Lego Ninjago is? Do you know what Batman is? Did you know that Batman is Bruce Wayne? And he starts trying to tell everybody every single thing about every single thing that he owns. Except on this day, we were sitting at the dinner table, and I'm talking with my friends that are over at the house, and I notice my son's not saying anything, and I look over, and he's fallen asleep on my wife's arm, fork in hand. My little cute 5-year-old son fell asleep at the dinner table because he was so sick. A couple days later, my daughter, who's 4, gets it, and it's bad. It is really bad. And so I'm at work one day, and I start getting texts from my wife. Oh, rough day. She's definitely sick. She's definitely got it. 10 minutes later, green face emoji. It's not good. Danger when you come home. Danger when you come home. 5 minutes later, puke face emoji. 3 minutes later, 3 puke face emojis. Danger, danger. It is rough at the house. And I just met you guys, so I don't want to get too gross. I'll just say that there was a lot of vomit coming out of my daughter into my wife's mouth. So this is how gross the sickness going around our family was recently. And then I got it last week. And that's not good. When I was speaking to D Now this past weekend, I wanted to be with you lovely people today, and I was homesick, vomiting myself. And I'm like, oh, this isn't good. This is not good that I'm this sick. And it might not be good for you guys to hear in the front row if it comes back to me. I ate lots of tacos, so hope you brought some plastic to cover yourselves up. And just catch the germs. No, I didn't eat any tacos, so it'll just be all the Dr. Pepper I drank that'll shoot straight out of me all the way to the back row. So that's been my life over the last couple of weeks. Sick kids, sick me, a little bit of sick everything. To give you a little bit of idea of my personality, what I'm like, back when I was you guys' age in middle school, I played a lot of basketball, played a lot of baseball, got to high school, decided to try out for the baseball team. Coach saw me play, and he thought I should probably do anything besides play baseball. So he cut me at the first available time, like, hey, Chandler, go do anything else. Just go away. So I took up guitar, so we can put our first picture up here. Took up guitar, joined a bunch of ska punk bands back in the day to date myself. I made a lot of great decisions with my hair back in the day. Fun stuff like that. Also, video games. Anyone play video games? Yeah, so to date myself a little bit, my 3 games were Warcraft 2, Doom 2, and Duke Nukem 3D, if you can do the math on that, since they all came out before you were born, about how old I am. Also, I've always been a big fan of movies. Any storytelling that involves having a whole story that you can watch in 2 hours and don't have to read anything, that's amazing to me. Actually, started reviewing movies a couple years back, and I've gotten to go to some movie premieres and stuff, have a YouTube channel, so that's been a lot of fun. But the big thing in my life is that I have a family. I've got 2 wonderful kids that have been born, and a third one cooking in the oven, not literally, that'll be born in September. Like, someone's going, what kind of crazy guy did they hire? No, my wife is currently pregnant. That's actually why she couldn't be here, because when you get pregnant, you get very, very sick. So this is my family right here. My wife and I have been married for 11 years. which has been amazing. My daughter right there, her name is Chloe. She's 4 years old. She's like a stereotype. She loves Disney princesses, dresses, and My Little Pony. Likewise, my son is also a little bit like a stereotype. He's in kindergarten right now, about to turn 6. He loves Batman, Superman, and everything Lego in the universe. So when I was growing up, Legos were just bricks and like generic guys, and maybe there's like construction worker Lego guy and astronaut. Now there's Lego everything, and he wants all of it. So he's got the video games, he collects the Legos, and apparently the way they sell Legos now, figures now, they have this thing called blind bags. And so you can buy little $2 bags, and you open it up, and you get a surprise guy inside of it. So my son always wants those, and always wants more and more and more of them. And we used to just buy them for him whenever we went there, because it's like $2. What's the big deal? Just get him more. And then we started realizing he just wants more, because it's like this thing inside of him that just has to collect more stuff without even caring what he gets. So we had to like stop buying them for him for that reason. Same thing with the video games. Anyone play the Lego video games? So a whole bunch of people. My son plays all of them. He's like better at me at these video games, which is scary when your 5-year-old is better at you than something already. So, and he'll try and get us to join him to help him play the video games. And Lego Batman is his key thing that he's into, that and Lego Ninjago. And so he tried to get my wife to like play Lego Batman with him for 2 hours to collect bricks so that he could buy the blind bag of the Music Meister in a video game, which as an adult sounds just crazy to me, and my wife said yes to it. So my wife is sitting there playing Lego Batman for 2 hours. As soon as he gets the Music Meister, he's like, yes, we got him. Now let's get the Riddler. As soon as he gets the thing that he wanted, as soon as he gets the thing he'd been working towards, he wanted something new. And that desire inside of him for more, that's what we're going to talk about today. Because it's cute when it's a 5-year-old, but don't you do the same thing every Christmas? You're so excited, you get a ton of really cool stuff, and then what happens the next day? You realize that other thing you want. You beat the game, you want the next game. We all have this desire in us for more, and that's what we're talking about. The word we're going to use for this is appetites. So when we normally talk about appetites, what are we talking about? Food. Tacos. Normally when we talk about appetites, the big one we talk about is our appetite for food, but really we have appetites for a bunch of different things. If we could put this chart up here. We have these appetites that always want more, and they're really powerful. They drive my son to want to get these blind bags all the time, and like will start crying if we don't help him. So food, obvious one. Sleep. Anyone always want more sleep? Anyone in the room? Progress. Anyone ever played one of these games on your phone where it's like, there's a bird that has to fly through a bunch of rings, and you try and last as long as you can. And if you, like any sort of like these video games where it's some silly task where you're just trying to get further and further every time, that's this need in us for progress. Or, Candy Crush back in the day where you're just trying to level up. We have this appetite for more, for progress. Grades, obviously a big one. Acceptance. Everyone wants to be accepted by the people around them, to be invited to things, to have people like them for who they are. Winning. Any sports people? Has you ever won the first game of the season and went, I guess we're done, we can lose now? Try that one with your coach. Hey, coach, no, we're good. We won one. I'm satisfied. No, we always want more. Oh, also, what about any Fortnite people? Fortnite? If you get number one, are you satisfied? Are you done? No, you got to keep getting number one. So actually, I tried to understand this illustration. I've never played Fortnite, so I went to download it, and then apparently you have to be invited by someone, and no one's invited me, so I don't feel acceptance. But anyway, you can go through the list. Fame, recognition, respect, love, compliments. Whenever you post those pictures on your Snapchat, you want likes. You want someone to say, you look awesome today. We all have this desire for more compliments. Popularity, sex, stuff, to be envied, to be attractive. Each one of us have these appetites. And you can look at the list, and you can think through the ones that you tend to gravitate towards. Some of them you probably don't care about. And some of them, that's you. Here's the silly thing about it. All of us have appetites where we get really way too into stuff and we want more in that area, and it looks silly to other people. So you got the one person that's got their phone and they're playing Fortnite. And they're just, I got to get number one. They're getting worked up. I got to get number one. The person next to them is looking at them. Are you serious? Playing a video game? Oh, wait, my Snapchat streak. Oh, okay. And you have to get that Snapchat streak. Got to keep it going. Next person. Snapchat streaks? Really? I just need followers. That's so superficial to want a streak. I just need followers and likes. Next person. Really? A bunch of pictures of silly video game? Oh, I better check my fantasy football team. We all have these things where we're obsessed with them, and when other people look at us doing it, it looks so silly. But these things have incredible power over our lives and drive the decisions that we make. And you know who understands the fact that we have appetites that have power over our lives? Advertisers. Advertisers, the people that do commercials for TV shows and different products, what they do is they don't tell you the technical specifications of whatever they're trying to sell you because you wouldn't buy it. No, what they do is they study you. They study you. They figure out what you want, and they tell you that their product will supply that. They tell you what you want to hear. And so they know what your appetites are. So they think Instagram girls, Snapchat girls, what do they want? They want fame, recognition, to be pretty. Who is famous for being famous? Oh, Kardashians. Kardashians. All right, we want to sell perfume. So we'll put a Kardashian walking down the street in a fancy part of town, and then it'll say, do you want to smell like fame? And then whatever the name of their product is. And they just use a Kardashian as their way to sell the product. Or if they're trying to sell cologne to a 15 to 30-year-olds, what do? They get like a Chris from one of these Marvel movies. So you get Chris Pratt, Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth. They show them looking classy, super slick, handsome. And they say, do you want to smell like a man? Buy our stuff. But here's a question. What does a Kardashian smell like? Anyone? What does Chris Pratt smell like? I have no idea. Yeah, probably gross. Appetites are so powerful. So powerful, they can convince people to buy a fragrance people have never smelled based off seeing a picture of a famous person they've never smelled. That's weird. The power of our appetites. Or here's one even crazier than that. Even crazier than that. This is a commercial from about 15 years back. It's actually on YouTube. I rewatched it last night. It's nuts. Starts off, big metal doors open, and a guy walks out. He's all sweaty. And there's a big metal cage fence thing in front of him, kind of like American Ninja Warrior mixed with Burning Man. I mean, there's fire everywhere. This guy jumps up, and he's climbing up it. And it says, if you're courageous. And he gets to the top. It says, if you're bold. And there's like a crowd of people cheering him on. He walks up. In front of him is a sword in an actual stone. If you're worthy. The guy walks up. Grabs the sword, pulls it out of the stone. As he does this, a laser bridge shoots out of the platform in front of him, and he walks out onto it. A lava monster stands up and starts shooting flames at him, and he's like swinging his sword, battling off the flames. And then it blows one final blast of fire at him, holds the sword up, the fire spreads to either side of it. The few, the proud. And then it cuts to him in his dress uniform, the Marines. I've known a lot of people that have been in the military. They've never been like, dude, today was the best day of my life. Lava monster training. We battled lava monsters, and then a dragon came out, and we had no. It's never happened because lava monsters don't exist. Sorry, guys, they don't exist. So it doesn't happen. They don't exist either. But so it doesn't. How do they sell you on joining the Marines? Significance. This desire to be respected, to do something that matters. That's how they sell you on joining the Marines. And people enlist, give up years of their lives based off a commercial on YouTube. It's like, best Marines commercial ever. Years of their life based off a commercial about a guy battling a lava monster. That's how powerful these appetites are. And here's where it gets a little scary. If you think about your own life, especially some of you that are in high school, a little bit older, if you think about the biggest regret of your life, the thing that brings you the most shame, that you're most embarrassed of, that you don't want people to know about, It probably goes back to a decision you made because of one of these appetites. That you wanted something, and so you made a choice that you immediately regretted. Or perhaps the issue isn't something you've done, but the biggest hurt in your life comes from a parent, a friend that had an appetite that they were trying to quench, and they made choices that hurt you in the process because they could not be satisfied through an appetite, and they kept making choices after choice. So what we're going to do is we're going to be in John chapter 4, and we're going to look at a story of a woman that had an appetite, that had something that was driving her actions, and what Jesus had to say to her. So we're going to be in John chapter 4. This is what it says. Verse 3. John chapter 4, verse 3. And he left Judea. So Jesus is in the middle of his teaching ministry. He left Judea, departed again for Galilee. And he had to pass through Samaria. He came to a town of Samaria called Sychar, near the field of Jacob. And it had been given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there. So Jesus, wearied as he was from his journey, was sitting beside the well. So I'll pause right there real quick. So Jesus is in the middle of his teaching ministry, traveling. He pauses somewhere because he's wearied from travel. So we're in Texas. Has anyone ever been in a group of people that was doing something outside? You were the person that forgot to drink water, wear sunscreen, and bring your water bottle? Yeah, half the room's like, no, I'm a planner. I've never done that. Yeah, I'm that person. I'm the person that always forgets to be responsible. So back when I was in high school, I volunteered at the Georgetown Air Show one year. And I didn't drink water, didn't put on sunscreen, didn't bring a water bottle. And I was directing traffic in the parking lot for about 10 minutes. And then I just started like stumbling around. And Georgetown's all old people. And so old people worry about young people that they look like they're dehydrated. And so the old people saw me doing this. And like, what's wrong with that guy? So they called security. Security showed up like, hey, son, what are you doing? Like, well, I'm directing traffic. They're like, you're not directing anything. It looks like you're about to die. So they ended up taking me into security and pumping me full of water and stuff so that I didn't die. But what ended up happening, I went back the next year and did the same thing again. Forgot to drink water. I'm that guy. I don't make wise choices. But why do I say this? Because Jesus is traveling, and he stops somewhere because he's wearied. He's thirsty. And in this passage, there's going to be language that keeps going back and forth as it's talking about Jesus' physical thirst. And it's also going to be talking about our souls and how our souls can long for more. Continues on. It says this. It was about the 6th hour, important detail. A woman from Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, give me a drink. For his disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, how is it that you, a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a woman of Samaria? For Jews had no dealings with Samaritans. So pause right there real quick. There's 3 important things about this. So Jesus, thirsty, stops at the well. A woman walks up at the 6th hour. That's the first detail that's really important. Because normally in the Bible, that doesn't tell you when things happen. They didn't have watches, so it wasn't something that they tracked the time real well. And so if it tells you the time, it's important. See, what we know from kind of history is that women would normally go to the well earlier in the day. And the fact that it's the 6th hour, and this is when this particular woman is at the well, that means that she probably didn't want to be around the other women, or the other women didn't want to be around her, which means she was an outcast. And we're going to learn a little bit more about that very soon. Second thing, she's a woman. There's not like some Greek translation of that. She's just a woman. But in this culture, it wasn't common for a man and a woman to just kind of have a conversation like this at the well. It's not like today's culture. So that's a little bit weird, especially a rabbi walking up to a woman like, hey, can I have a drink of water? That's not quite how things worked at the time. Third one is she's a Samaritan. And I can't go into the full historical details of it, but the quick version is they used to be one nation, the Jews and the Samaritans, and then the nation divided, and then one of the nations was conquered. And because of all the details in all of this, Samaritans and Jews did not like each other. I mean, actual racism, xenophobia, fear, they did not get along with each other. They did not talk to each other at the well, and they did not ask each other for drinks. So the fact that Jesus is at the well talking to this woman, and she's a woman, and she's a Samaritan, is very, very unusual. Continues on. Jesus answered her, if you knew the gift of God, who it is that is saying, give me a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you the living water. So we're, once again, with this whole thing's filled with this language contrasting back and forth between Jesus is physically thirsty and spiritual thirst and emptiness. And the woman said to him, "Sir, you have nothing to draw water with, and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob? He also gave us a well and drank from it himself, as did his sons and his livestock." Jesus said to her, "Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again," speaking about the physical water. "But whoever drinks the water that I will give him will never be thirsty again. That water that I will give him will become a spring of water welling up with eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I may not be thirsty or have to come here to draw water." And Jesus said to her, and this is where it starts getting into what's really going on in the passage and why Jesus had to talk to this woman. And turn pages. And Jesus said to her, "Go call your husband and come here." The woman answered, "I have no husband." And Jesus said to her, "You are right in saying I have no husband, for you have 5 husbands, and the one you now have is not your husband. What you have said is true." See, at the core of what's going on in this passage is that Jesus knew that this woman had certain appetites in her life. She had a desire in her life for love, for a relationship, for sex, whatever it was, that she kept going to man after man. And her soul was weary. The same way Jesus was physically weary from traveling, thirsty for water, her soul longed for something that she could not find in all of these people that she kept going to, person after person, and they did not satisfy. So if we could put this next slide up on the screen. See, our appetites are never fully and finally satisfied. So you think to yourself, I used to be confused by this passage because I'd be like, who is it that would keep going to person after person after person? After the first guy, and it doesn't work, and the second guy, and she keeps going to all these losers. I would think she would stop doing this. Isn't this a definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result? That's what I thought. And then I stopped to think about it, and I went, you know, I've done the same thing over and over again. See, for the right appetite, I've done some really stupid stuff. Pursuing specific desires, I've gotten very stupid, and so have you. See, our appetites are never fully and finally satisfied. You can think about Thanksgiving dinner. You have the gigantic meal. You got the turkey, mashed potatoes, you got the peas, you got the pies. Everybody loves the pies. And eventually you eat the meal, and someone always goes, "Whoo, I'm stuffed. I'm never going to eat ever again." And then your uncle starts loosening his belt at the table, and you're like, "Oh, come on, man, this is a little bit weird." Then he goes over to the couch, takes a 2-hour nap. The pies cook in the oven. You open it up. As soon as the pies are ready, he goes, "Oh, pies, I love pie. Let's eat them." The guy that 2 hours ago said, "I'm never going to eat ever again," is suddenly hungry for more. Because as you know, your appetite is never fully and finally satisfied. You can never eat enough that your appetite for food goes away. And if we look at our list of appetites for acceptance, well, this one person liked me. I guess no one ever has to like me ever again. Winning. Oh, I won the what game? I got the final shot of the game. I won. I'm satisfied. No, that's not how it works. They always want more, no matter how much you get, no matter how much victory you get, no matter how many times you get number 1 in Fortnite. You want to get number 1 again because they're never fully and finally satisfied. The second thing is our appetites drive us to do more. So they want more, but they drive us to do more. So back a few years back, one of my students in my D group, I showed up, and everyone was kind of snickering like and laughing at this one particular guy. And we went to sit down to do our Bible study. And everyone was like, "All right, open your Bibles." So everyone pulled out their phone because, 21st century, so their phone's on their Bible. So they pull out their phones, except this one guy who pulls out his old slider phone, with the keyboard and everything. So it doesn't have apps on it or anything. It doesn't have a Bible. And so everyone starts laughing at him. And I'm like, "Hey, man, what happened to your phone?" Well, so what happened is that I was playing Clash of Clans. And war broke out. Like a war broke out, and my clan is like my family. And so you got to do whatever you got to do to take care of your family. And so I had to make some choices. And I won the war, but then they came back strong, and so I had to make some other choices. And then my dad in real life, my family in real life, saw the phone bill for the month, and that I'd spent $300. And he thought that was a little bit too much money to spend on a phone, app gamey thing. So he took my phone away from me. Wait, did you just say you spent $300 on Clash of Clans in 1 month? Oops. So this guy had spent $300 on Clash of Clans. And you probably, look around the room, you probably know someone that's done something similar to that. But we have this desire for more, and it leads us to do more because our desires are never fully and finally satisfied. Sometimes it's funny. It's funny when someone spends $300 on an app. It's not as funny, though, when it's not just an app, but someone that has a desire for love, relationship, acceptance. So a girl that wants a guy to like her, and so he asks for some pictures. So she sends him some pictures of herself that she probably shouldn't have taken. And she knew it was a bad idea in the moment, sends it off to this guy. She did something she would never do in an independent context, but in that moment it seemed like a good idea. And if you've ever been in that situation, you know what I'm talking about, the shame that comes from it, the danger that comes with that. Or you got a group of friends you want to get in with and you're at a party and something goes down at the party and you know you shouldn't participate in it, shouldn't drink that, shouldn't go in that room where stuff's going on, but you want these people to accept you, so you do things you know you absolutely should not be doing. With phones, there's so many different things that you have access to that you know that on that website you shouldn't go to. So it drives you to, these appetites for more drive us to places that we know we should not go and do things we know that we should not do, and they don't ever satisfy. So we keep doing more. And it's not just that we keep doing more, our appetites eventually cost us more. So you send that picture to this guy that you thought would like you if you did this, and next thing you know, that picture's been seen by a bunch of other people that you didn't want to see it because he wasn't someone that you should send that to. You're in a relationship, you want the guy to like you, so you do things you know you shouldn't do, and you have to feel the consequence of that moving forward. Cost you something that you didn't want to pay that price for. And I don't want to get too melodramatic, just to kind of tell you a little bit about my own family story. So my dad was a very successful businessman. Actually retired when he was 45 and made great business choices, invested his money. But the guy that I knew at home was just an alcoholic. And he would come home and his appetite, one of them was for alcohol. And that experience of that. And so he would come home every night, drunk out of his mind. And I just knew crazy at my house. That's what my dad was to me. And it wasn't just that alcohol was one of his appetites, but also women. And so he was having multiple affairs, and eventually my parents' marriage fell apart. And so the cost of my dad's appetites was a stable family life. And I don't want to get too dramatic, but I mean, there's amounts of mild abuse going on because of his behavior, broken home. My dad married the woman he had an affair with. That's not a good foundation for a marriage, so then that marriage ended. In the last few years of his life, he told me, I'm actually bored and lonely because he'd lost most of his friends through it. Lost multiple wives, alienated his family. And so he just turned to alcohol. And when I was 20 years old and he was 54, he eventually drank himself to death. And I don't want to be melodramatic, but that's the power of the appetites. When we turn to the wrong things for satisfaction, it messes us up. You get a drink, you get a moment of happiness, but then you're thirsty for more. And it drives you farther down paths. So your appetites drive you to do more than you want to do, take you places that you don't want to stay, and cost you more than you want to pay. That's the power of going to the wrong place with your appetites. Going to places that absolutely will not, do not, cannot satisfy. Sometimes it's big things, and sometimes it's small things. You think back to that air show I was at, where I was weary, from the dehydrated, wandering around, doing this stuff. I go back to the security place where they're trying to get some water to me. Imagine the scenario. What if they'd said, hey, we're actually running out of water. So can we trade you instead and we'll just give you some sand? Oh. I know it's only 1 cup, but it's sand. It says not water. How about 2 cups? Is that good? 2 cups of sand, will that work? So how many cups of sand would it take to take your thirst away? How many? Infinity? That's a lot. Wow, that would take so long. So imagine you're there. The guy's like, I will offer you 100 cups of sand or 7-Up. Which one do you go with? 100 cups of sand or 1 7-Up? Some of the middle schoolers, you guys, you'd probably go, a sand because you're trying to be funny. But every single time, every single one of you would go with the 7-Up. Because sand cannot quench your thirst. No amount of sand can ever take away any amount of thirst under any situation that has ever occurred in all of human history. And at the same time, you cannot satisfy desires which God intended for himself with anything but God. You cannot satisfy those deep, longing desires inside of your heart for more with anything except God. Every time you turn to relationships for satisfaction, it will come up empty. And it's not that relationships are bad. Every time you turn to compliments for satisfaction, for your stability, for life, every time you do that, it will come up short. And it's not that compliments are bad. But we were designed, it tells us in Colossians 1:16, you were made by God, for God. The source of life, of living water that you're designed for is God. It says, C.S. Lewis said this once, if we consider the unblushing promises of reward and the staggering nature of the rewards promised in the Gospels, it would seem that our Lord finds our desires not too strong, but too weak. We are half-hearted creatures fooling around with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered us, like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in the slum because he cannot imagine what is meant at the offering of a holiday at the sea. We are far too easily pleased. See, we are designed to desire more, but we're supposed to find it in God. At the end of the passage, it says this. Jesus is still talking to the woman. It says, yet a time is coming, and Jesus is speaking, time is coming now when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is spirit. His worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth. And the woman said, I know that Messiah called Christ is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us. And then Jesus declared, I, the one you are speaking to, am he. The source of the living water, of satisfaction, has always been Jesus. It's always been him. As we start to close out, if the band wants to kind of come up here, I want you to stop and think about yourself. And we put that list of appetites up on the screen, and you know where you keep turning to a well that does not satisfy. You know those things, areas in your life that are empty, that have led you to do things that you never wanted to do, whether that's led to guilt, whether that's led to shame. You know what that is for you. And there's a source of forgiveness, and there's a source of living water. Likewise, some of you know the pain from the things that have happened all around you, from maybe a parent, a friend, that has gone so far down a path that it's cost you because of their actions. There's a source of a heavenly Father, and it's Jesus. See, your appetites, it's not the appetites themselves that are the problem. None of them. Even everything on that list, wanting compliments, wanting to look good, wanting to be accepted, all of that stuff, those are normal desires. It can't be your foundation. If your world is destroyed, if you lost your looks, you're putting way too much stock in a well that cannot satisfy. If you need a guy in your life, if there has to be another person and another person and another person, you're going to a well that cannot quench that thirst. If you have to be the star of the team, if you have to be the person that's winning constantly, if you have to be the guy getting number 1 in Fortnite, if that's your source of satisfaction, you will always come up empty and your soul will be weary from it. There's one source of satisfaction. There's one person we're designed for, and that is Christ. As we go into a final song of worship, there's youth leaders that are scattered in the back of the room a little bit. And if you know you're that person that's gone places that you shouldn't have gone, stayed there longer than you wanted to, paid prices you didn't want to pay, I would challenge you to have the boldness to get up and respond, not just by singing, but going and telling someone, talking through. Because God says he opposes the proud and he lifts up the humble. And he gives grace to the humble. How do you get that burst of living water? How do you get that burst of life? It's through Christ. That's where life is found. That's where we're refreshed. That is what we need. Let's pray.